Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Harris Bard for Pondlife Aquatics and Tropical Fish London. And in today's video, I am going to be walking you through a shop tour and a few highlights from the latest orders that we got in at our Northwest London Aquatic Centre. Let's get into it. Now, before I get into the bulk of the video, I'd like everyone to do me a massive favour. The Practical Fishkeeping Readers Poll for 2025 is now open, which means you can vote for us for Best Independent Fishstore, Best Discus, anything that you think we deserve. A vote for us would mean the world to us here, and it would encourage us to keep doing everything that we're doing. So there is a link in the description for that. But without further ado, on with the rest of the tour. For those of you who are new to the channel, we are Pondlife Aquatics and Tropical Fish London, and we do things a little bit differently here to a lot of other aquatic centres. We do things continent by continent. And the reason we do this is because we generally think that it helps people decide on where they want to keep their fish from in the world. And we try and keep exclusively tank-bred species here. We try and focus on well-bred species from reliable suppliers, and we try and help educate people about the fish that they're buying and give them as much solid advice as we can on the best ways to keep their fish. So when you first walk into our fish room and look on the left-hand side, you have our South American section, but particularly our smaller species. And the first things that you're going to encounter are our Livebearers. And although we didn't get anything new this week, we have things that you would expect us to have. So things like swordtails, platies, guppies, lots of those nice, easy to keep live bearing species that are going to give birth to live, fully fledged young rather than your egg laying species, which are just coming up next. Now, further down into South America, this is where you're going to find the bulk of our Tetra species. And this week we got in some fresh neon Tetras, which if you're interested in, I have done a species spotlight on ages ago. I'll leave a link in the description for that. But we also have everything that you would expect. Things like rummy nose Tetra, ember Tetra. We even have some more rare species, things like bentoses or rathuni Tetra. All of your typically shoaling species that we really just love here at Pondlife Aquatics. We try and keep a wide variety in stock. And then additionally, we have our Corydoras catfish. Now, in terms of new things this week, we got in a fresh lot of one of my favorite species of Cory cats. And these are the Julii Corydoras catfish. And if you watched my video last week, but were three fish that I thought were really just a great start for a lot of people to be keeping in the aquarium trade. Julii's got a special mention there because they are a more diminutive species of Cory cats. Julii's are these beautiful little catfish with these speckled bodies, a little black fin, and they only get about 5 centimeters long when they're fully grown. They were one of the first species of Corys that I ever kept. I absolutely loved them when I was a kid. I didn't keep them in probably the best way possible. I kept them in a biorb, which, as a lot of you know, that has alpha grog in the base and isn't really suitable for keeping Corydoras in at all. Corys, particularly Julii's, will love having a sandy substrate or a aquasoil substrate, something really soft that's not going to damage their barbels or cause anything like red face disease, which is where they literally just damage their noses from where they grub around in the base. As you can see from our tanks, they're really just a peaceful species that can be kept along loads of other things. Particularly things like Tetras are going to get on really well with them. Things like Farlowellas, which we did a little spotlight on a couple of weeks ago. They are just one of my absolute favorites. They're really easy to breed in captivity, although they will do really well in hard water and they're super adaptable, as is the case with a lot of tank bred species. If you ever want to breed your cory cats, the best way to do that is to really start off with RO or rainwater remineralized with a specialized salt. I know people who've really successfully bred cory cats in particular just by having cut water, so using a 50-50 split of rainwater, which is obviously not going to have any mineral content in it, and regular London tap water. And that seems to work really well. So if you want to try breeding cory cats out, set up a long tank. They obviously aren't going to be a top dwelling species. They need more of a long space to swim effectively in. Give them lots of plant cover, things like Java moss, Java fern, lots of hiding spaces with bogwood and everything that's just going to make them happy in any general space. And you're going to get the absolute best out of them. They are just such a rewarding species to keep, which is why I continue to highlight them whenever we get new ones in. Additionally, in this space, you're always going to find things like Ancistrus, Pseudomogal, Alcats. We typically keep a variety in at any given point. We didn't get any fresh ones in this week, but I feel like it's worth mentioning that we always have an interesting selection of Ancistrus, and I know a lot of people who watch our videos and come to our shop enjoy keeping them and breeding them, so it's always worth mentioning for people who are interested. Feel free to comment below with any questions you have about what specific species we have in, because it would take me ages to run off the entire list. But we always have a good selection, things like snowballs. I'm trying to get in some Queen Arabesque. I just thought it was worth mentioning. Then on the right-hand side of South America, when you walk into the room, we have our larger species of fish. And this is genuinely one of my favorite spaces in the entire aquarium. We have our hard water Discus, which are really popular at the moment. We always have a good selection of them in, and I feel like their breeding is just getting better and better, and they're easier and easier to keep. I'm probably going to be doing a species spotlight on them at some point. So if you're interested in that, let me know below. And anything specifically you would like to know about keeping Discus. And then we have our tank bred parrotfish, which we bred here at Pondlife Aquatics. We're slowly selling out of these guys, but they are getting bigger and bigger, and they are just so cute. You can see why people are just taken by them. Again, super easy to breed, really easy to breed in London tap. Our tank parameters for them are just perfect. And then in terms of new things, for this week, we got in a really nice selection of angelfish. Angelfish are one of those classic tropical species that I feel like when people think about keeping aquariums, they either think of the neon tetra or they think of things like angels. And I realized, having watched a lot of YouTube recently, we're really lucky in this country to have such a wide selection of really well-bred, really well-colored angels. I've always kind of taken it for granted, the fact that we have a list of like 15, 20 different varieties of angels come through every single week. And whenever we get them in, they always have really strong coloration, really well settled, already pre-quarantined, and that's not something that you're going to find in every single country. We this week got in some bicolors and some angels alongside some more classic kind of blacky gray angelfish. Obviously, your less colored versions of angels are always going to be slightly hardier than, let's say, your Hellboys or your blue avatar angels. But keeping angels, as long as you're keeping them in a well-planted, spacious aquarium, they're really rewarding to keep and quite easy to breed as long as you give them vertical spaces. A lot of people like to use things like breeding cones to get on with them, but keeping them in groups of 5 or more is always going to be the recommendation. So we always think that keeping a 200-liter plus is the way to go with angelfish. We don't think it's really appropriate to be selling them to people who have a sub 100-liter tank or even a 120-liter, because when they do get bigger, they do get quite territorial. And you're just going to have a much better time if you keep them in a wider shoal, reduce the amount of aggression that they're going to have in that later stage of life. And honestly, they are just so beautiful to look at. I think it's always worthwhile keeping them in a larger shoal than only keeping one or two and feeling a bit disappointed when you look at your tank. But that's the new things for South America this week. So let's move on to Asia. Now, Asia is a bit of an odd one this week. Obviously, we are going through a redevelopment of our Asian section. So if you are interested in that, I posted the first of our mini-series of updating our Asia rack a few weeks ago now. So that is on the channel. And if you are interested in the development of Pondlife Aquatics, that's the video for you. But we still have a really nice selection of fish. We have everything that we usually have in stock alongside some more new interesting species. So I'll just give you a quick rundown and then give you a brief spotlight on some of the things that I think are worth highlighting. We have our torpedo barbs alongside our clown loach, kabutoi, rasbora, honey gourami, glass catfish, and our Asian rummy nose. Additionally, we have sparkling gourami alongside some hill stream loach. And then we have our Madaka rice fish, which we moved up into our rainbow goby tank this week. And I do just want to say they look so much better in this tank, giving them a little bit more space to kind of show off those colors with a little bit better lighting. It's always going to be the way to go with keeping Madakas. Obviously, we aren't allowed to sell them for outdoors in this country, but you will read a lot online about people keeping patio ponds, and they seem to be doing really successfully outdoors, although I cannot recommend it as much as I wish I could. Additionally, we have our things like Golden Wonders alongside our Galaxy Rasbora. Our Pentazoa barbs have really colored up in the past week or so, and our Golden barbs are doing really, really well. But the new things in Asia that I would like to highlight in particular are our Siamese flying fox or Siamese algae eaters. We used to keep these all the time when I was in my teenage years. So going back about 10 years or so, we always had Siamese flying fox in. They are one of those staple fish in the aquarium, and for some reason we just stopped getting them in. Realistically, with Siamese flying foxes, they are just such an amazing algae eater. They're relatively peaceful, but they do need a larger aquarium space. So 110 liters, and they will always do better to be kept in larger groups, so 5+. And that's literally just because when they get older, they can get territorial. And when that happens, having a larger group will actually diffuse some of that territorial nature, weirdly enough. So giving them a large tank, particularly planted well with lots of bogwood, lots of different species of plants, a decent amount of flow is going to be best for them. And then supplementing with algae wafers, because these guys are primarily herbivores. They are going to eat a lot of the algae issues that you have in your tank. That being said, they do require relatively stable tank parameters. They can go anywhere from 6.5 pH all the way to 7.5, even 8.5 when they are tank bred. And realistically, they are a hardy fish. I remember putting one of these guys in an aquarium we've been taking care of for years and years now, about 8 years ago. And every now and then you just see it shoot out from this massive piece of bogwood that we have there. I haven't got any footage of it, unfortunately, and these guys are really difficult to film because they are quite small. But if you are having algae issues and you have a larger aquarium, Siamese flying fox are going to be absolutely ideal for you. Additionally, in the new side of Asia, although we are having some issues with our lighting at the moment, which I will go into in the second part of our mini-series, and cycling some of the new aquariums is taking slightly longer than we would have anticipated. We have been seeding the aquariums with water from our other tanks. It has just been a much slower process of seeding the aquariums, so this entire top rack still hasn't got any fish in. Hopefully at some point we'll be having a really big Asian fish order in, where we'll be able to highlight all of the new species that we get in. I do just want to highlight some of the Siamese fighting fish that we got in this week. We got in some full moons and half moons, and they are just absolutely beautiful. We love Siamese fighting fish here at Pondlife Aquatics and Tropical Fish London, and we try and give every single one of our fish at least 15 litres of water to move around in, and that's just in the shop. We always recommend people keeping them in at least 20 litres, maybe 30 litres or more. But some of the fish that we got in this week are just absolutely stunning. If you are in the market for Siamese fighting fish, then definitely come on down to us this weekend, because they're just absolutely stunning. And then in Australia, we still have a good selection of our Pseudomogal luminatas and Gertrudis, and they're doing extraordinarily well. I love watching any kind of Pseudomogal kind of grow out of juvenility into adolescence, just because you start to really see those colors pop. We still have our dwarf neon blue rainbow fish, and our Bosmani rainbows are really starting to color up, although we did sell quite a fair few of them. But that doesn't mean this tank is empty, far from it. We got in some fresh Pseudomogal Bracatus, which are probably the most popular Pseudomogal species in the trade. They're typically known as Forktail rainbows, and they are just absolutely stunning. They have these beautiful, almost translucent bodies with these poppy yellow tails, and they are just so cool to look at. They're one of the easiest species of Pseudomogal to breed in captivity, so if you are looking to get into the hobby a bit more and maybe have a little bit of a breeding project, Bracatus are definitely going to be the way to go. Keeping them in something like a 90 litre for a larger group with well-planted, stable parameter water aquariums is just going to encourage them to breed. I don't think you can really get Bracatus wild caught anymore. They are pretty much an exclusively tank bred species, and they are just absolutely stunning. They exhibit this real sexual dimorphism. The males have these very obvious, dramatic finnage, while the females are slightly duller, but they all exhibit these beautiful blue eyes, and I've just been loving having them in. They're one of those fish that just kind of make me excited to look at. Same with the luminatas and Gertrudis. So definitely worthwhile checking out. And then in Africa, we've got nothing new in this week. It's been quite a tight week for ordering. We did just hold off on going kind of gangbusters on new fish, just because we didn't really want to be overstocking our aquariums. It was a little bit slow in terms of sales this week, just because of the summer holidays and people are away. That being said, our cichlid tanks are looking just awesome. The Malawi cichlids are really just settled. They found a really nice hierarchy. Those peacock cichlids that I showed off a few weeks ago are doing incredibly well. And then we've got our Tanganyikan species of our Ocellatus daffodils. We've got our Lamprologus lupi oranges alongside our Lamprologus lupi daffodils. And then obviously we've got things like Congo tetras, longfin Africans, and then we've got our hoplo cats alongside and our bamboo shrimp. And I think these are probably going to be the last bamboos that we get in for a long time, just until the breeding capabilities in the trade get more up to scratch. And that's pretty much it for Africa. We are hopefully going to be getting more in the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll have some new people come down to the shop and check out what we have to offer. And that is it from me here at Pondlife Aquatics this week. I do have a question for everyone who watches these videos regularly. If you would like me to carry on doing the full shop tours weekly, then I absolutely will. I love being able to go through and highlight the new species that we got in and touch on everything that we still have in stock. But I realized that it can get a bit samey with the format, and because we're not always getting in insane oddball species that might be of interest to people just for the sake of the YouTube channel, it might not be everyone's cup of tea to hear me just waffle on about the same fish every single week. So I've been thinking about potentially doing a shop tour once per month, and then maybe doing 1 or 2 videos per week, doing things like scaping or discussing a particular species, or maybe reviewing other people's tanks, or doing anything that's just a little bit different that isn't just 100% shop tours. It's just, I want to know everyone's opinion on this, if they enjoy hearing about fish and watching fish every week. I absolutely love just talking about aquatics and helping educate people. It's what I want to do. I adore aquarium fish. I've got a few projects on at the moment, which I'll be showing off on the channel later on in the year, once I let those develop. And I don't want to be doing that, show off the aquascape and then never show it off again. I want to show how when you have an aquascape, particularly in a home space, you can allow it to develop over time and then have something more deep to show you guys and show off personal projects with. But anyway, please just let me know if this is something you still enjoy watching me do. If it's something that you still enjoy but want a little bit less frequently, then let me know that. And if it's something that you want maybe half as much and then some more educational videos or anything else, I'm just at a crossroads with the channel at the moment. So it is in all of your hands. I will one last time ask you guys to give us a vote on the Practical Fish Keeping Readers Poll. It really would mean the absolute world to me if we hit top 40 for independent stores this year, which I think we deserve. I think we deserve it. I think we've done so much better than we ever have, and we've expanded, and we're in a position where it would just be the best for us. Next week, I will have a video about easy to grow plants, but my favorite ones, and some that we don't even sell because they're really difficult to get a hold of. Hopefully we'll get in a fish order, and next week I'll be back showing off those new species. But for now, that's everything from me here at Pondlife Aquatics, and I hope you'll join me again next time for this Pond Life.
Thank you.